I've been a Four, tres, two, uno. You tear me up.
Hey guys, welcome on back in to the channel. I am Faith, the Course of Divine Faith, and this is take 2. It is kind of late in terms of me doing this particular video. So I had already put in my retainers and we had a lot of mush mouth activity going on there. But either way, so, I mean, I could have kept them in, but I'm just like, who wants to deal with that? Not me. So this is take 2. And as I was mentioning in the previous video before I put it in the trash, I know I've kind of put chart readings on the back burner a little bit, not intentionally, but you guys have been putting in your request every week. So I've been trying to make sure that I get to those. I will still go back and get to the other requests that you guys made. Even if it was a couple weeks ago, I will still go back and do that because it gives me content. A lot of you may not really understand why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because I want you guys in a way to kind of tell me what you want to hear, because you guys are my audience and I'm nothing without my audience. So I appreciate you guys. Okay. And number 2, it definitely gives me content for those days where I just don't feel like doing readings for zodiac signs, because sometimes those can get kind of redundant, especially when the energy shows that a particular sign is not trying to make any sort of changes to make the energy go in a different direction. So it's good to have like a break or a breather from that. But if you don't know who I'm doing, just look at the screen. I am doing the natal chart on Oprah Winfrey. Now, this video is not going to be a super deep dive on her natal chart. I'm not even sure if this is her exact birth time. I just went off what was in the Astro databank system. In the other system that I normally use, which is Astro charts, they don't have Oprah Winfrey's time of birth in there for at all. So I just went ahead and just went with this particular type of chart. As you can see, the natal chart wheel does look different, and we have an aspect table. So we don't have it like we did in the Astro chart system, where it kind of gives you the list type of vibe, and kind of gives you the aspects in the list. Now we have to actually use the table, and come on, you know how to use a table. We've been here since we 5th grade. But either way, so I'm going to be taking a little bit of a look at Oprah Winfrey's chart. Now, it's been a hot little second since I did one of these charts. So yeah, but it's like riding a bike. Anyway, so it's also would be kind of difficult for you not to know who Oprah Winfrey is. But in case you don't know who Oprah is, she was like a journalist, I believe. And then she made her way up to her own talk show, which was a very big moment, I would say, in television, especially whenever it pertains to women of color, because at that particular time, there weren't really a lot of women of color on TV, especially in a main time slot with a show like this. So regardless of how I feel about her or how you feel about her, she did pave the way for, let's say, talk show host when it pertains to, like I said, women of color. So we have to give her that if we're going to give her something. Now, we may not necessarily care for, how she may be sometimes when it pertains to towards certain people, organizations, or the elbows that she rubs together with people that are on maybe like the most wanted list. But either way, it doesn't matter. So immediately off of the bat, I am taking I am directing my attention towards her angles. Now, when I talk about her angles, I'm talking about, her 1st, her 4th, her 7th house, and her 10th house. Those houses are considered your angles, but also those houses are tied to cardinal energy, because if we just take away data on this natal chart and we just have a regular old smegular natal chart, no data, we know that Aries is the 1st house and goes all the way around to Pisces. Aries, Capricorn, Libra, and Cancer are the cardinal energy. I talked about it on my Twitter account, where I said cardinal energy is like the change of seasons. So who knows? if Oprah in a way could change on a dime. Now, her angles are not on cardinal signs. I know it may look like it, but her ascendant is actually in a late degree Sagittarius energy. It's at 29 degrees. Now we know the 29th degree, or if you don't know, the 29th degree is karmic. It can represent lessons associated with the particular house or the particular like planet, the degree of the planet that it may be on. So with her having a 29th degree ascendant, we're just going to go with the chart as is. Sagittarius is tied to publishing, the guru, the teacher. So we can even say that this is on brand based off of the way her show was. It was always a teaching moment, but that's just right here on her ascendant, to be the teacher in some sort of a way. But this also could possibly go to maybe her being somewhat of like a humanitarian, maybe even, we may have somebody where she may have a particular teacher and she never forgets the relationship that she had with that teacher. She never forgets how that teacher made her feel, and this, some people, they just have that. It doesn't matter how big they get, where they go. It's always that one teacher that plays a pivotal role in their life and they just never forget it. And sometimes they may even model certain things or model a certain direction that they take in their life based off of what this teacher taught them. I can see that in a way whenever it pertains to her. So there may be a particular teacher in her life that she just never really forgets. She always is drawn to that teacher, or she may even say, well, this particular person came into my life. They were a teacher of some sort and they paved the way for me doing what I did. Okay. But also I can see Sagittarius also being like the guru, the mentor. So with her again being on the 29th degree, now with her Sagittarius ascendant being on 29th degree, we may even have somebody where, how, you seek a mentor, but you may not just have one mentor. You may have more than one mentor because they may be experts in their own particular like niche or their own particular field. You can't do that whenever it pertains to Miss Oprah. For me, I feel like she's like, I have to be your one and only guru, mentor, nobody else. So we may even possibly have a little bit of a selfishness energy there. Remember how I talked about before how our sun sign can sometimes represent kind of like maybe what can hold us back, because the sun is the ego. And not saying that ego is like a terrible thing, because sometimes you need the ego, especially if you're going up in a company and you are trying to be the best. You kind of need that ego to push you through to the finish line, to let people know I ain't the one, nor the two, or the three, or the 18. I am the best. Hey, I understand ego in that regard. Okay. But with her, it's not really a but. So with her sun right here, as you can see, with her sun being in the energy of Aquarius in the second house, it kind of gives me that vibe of someone who may possibly think that they are the smartest person in the room. Now, it's not really much of a surprise, I would say, that she has so much money, because look at her second house stellium. Remember I talked about it before when I talked about that energy of, wealth, gaining wealth, accumulating wealth. You can go back in my live videos, and I did a video about that when I looked at, I think, Bill Gates. I think I looked at Steve Jobs and some other people. And I talked about how Venus and Moon, to me, need to make some sort of connection, or this can show you in terms of how you accumulate wealth. So even though she doesn't necessarily have that wealth signature, as we would say, or as maybe some people would look for, because, you normally see, wealth through a Jupiter-Pluto connection, which she does not have. However, Jupiter-Neptune kind of goes unnoticed, because even though we know Neptune is kind of just like gassy, I guess, delusional, foggy, okay, but Jupiter Neptune linkage can be someone who can be a really good manifester. It can be one of those things where it's almost just like if they've been bullied And then they are in that moment where they're just like, I'm going to show them, I'm going to have so much money in the world. You wouldn't even try to bully me. I'm actually going to bully you. And then poof, you got it. That's the type of, I mean, even if you go back, even if we were to go back and look at a few other, entertainers in the industry that don't have Jupiter, Pluto. I believe Jupiter, Saturn may be one as well. But if they don't have any of those particular aspects, or even Jupiter, Moon, I think Jupiter, Moon can be a good one as well, because regardless, you need help of other people in order to accumulate wealth. You can't just do that on your own. And Jupiter, Moon can be that type of energy where it's like, money coming to you with ease in the manner, like people want to give you money. So those of you that have Jupiter, Moon aspects, you better make something shake, because there's no freaking reason why you should not have any money, because people want to give you the damn money, But anyway, so even if we look at charts and they don't have Jupiter, Moon, or Jupiter, Pluto, or Jupiter, or Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune, I think can still work. Okay. Because it literally is that manifestation. Okay. And I say Jupiter, Saturn, because if you look at Saturn, look at the way Saturn's glyph is, right? Flip the glyph upside down. What's it going to be? It's going to be Jupiter. Jupiter is the higher octane of Saturn. Hence why I say Jupiter, Saturn can make something shake as well, but it can only shake if you do the work. Okay, because since Jupiter is the higher octave of Saturn, that means Saturn is what? Lower body. It's whenever you are, you're focusing too much on things that don't matter. Hence, whenever you do the work and go through your spiritual awakening and you go through your spiritual whatever it is, okay, that Saturn glyph turns right side up. And now we have Jupiter. So now you're cooking with grease. Anyway, she has Jupiter, Neptune, and not to mention, she also does have Jupiter touching 2 planets in her second house. So it's not shocking that she has as much money as she does, just based off of my particular opinion. Okay. But either way, so since she has her ascendant at 29 degrees Sagittarius, remember, like I said, her lesson is possibly and I can see the 29th degree kind of being kind of harsh in a way, especially if you're not good with changes. Now, the 29th degree is tied to Leo. The 29th degree is also tied to Regulus, if we're talking about, a fixed star type of energy, just basic stuff right there. And we know, like I said, we know Leo is a fixed sign. Leo is tied to the sun. Sun is tied to the ego. So we could say that she possibly has a lot of lessons that she would need to learn whenever it pertains to her ego. Remember I said, her blind spot or her downfall in a way when it pertains to how her sun sign kind of restricts her is the inability to possibly learn. Or it could be, I have no problem learning, okay, but it's only going to be more so to my benefit, okay? But she may definitely be very, very smart whenever it pertains to, finances, where to put your finances, of course. Okay, because she is an Aquarius sun. She has Venus in Aquarius. She has Mercury in Aquarius. So she is definitely an intellectual. I don't know if she has invested in like healthcare or hospitals. I mean, I wouldn't really be surprised if she hasn't, because she also does have her Jupiter, planet of expansion, even though it's retrograde, in the 6th house of health, routine, pets. She may be one of those people where she really likes pets. And honestly, she may be one of those people where she may consider herself closer to her pets than actual people. But that can sometimes be something that we look at when we talk about intellectuals. They may struggle when it pertains to connecting with people. Whether you just struggle to do that or you really just don't want to. Okay. But we also know the 2nd house is the house of your voice, because it's naturally, tied to Taurus. So again, and we know Aquarius is like future forward. We also know that Aquarius is tied to the internet, the inventor. So again, it's not shocking that she came onto this earthly plane to invent something, to teach people something. But I would feel the direction for her was more so of teaching people about finances. Now, even though she may have had segments and stuff like that, her main focus for her, because we know whenever you sign deals, you have a boss. regardless if it seems like she is the boss at that time, she has another boss above her. So she may have wanted to go in the direction of, I really want to teach people about finance, how to do finance better. Let's bring in financial people, etc., etc. Okay. But also again, with the second house being the house of possessions, property, it's not shocking that she gave away a lot of stuff on her talk show as well. I mean, it's right here. I think Venus may be tied to gifts, but I'm going to actually take a look at the book of rulership right now. Or maybe gifts may be tied to moon. Even if it's tied to moon or it's tied to Venus, regardless, Venus and moon are actually making a aspect. Looks like, I think it might be a sextile. Yes, they're making a sextile and they're applying. So this is something that we don't really get a chance to see in the AstroCharts database, where it shows you if a planet is applying or if it's separating. Now, of course, we know separating means it's moving away. The planets are kind of like moving away from one another, or it's almost just, well, yeah, let me just say it's moving away. Applying, okay, it is, well, to me, okay, it is cohesion, okay. But either way, so her Venus and her moon are applying to one another. Okay. And remember, I talked about how Venus and moon, to me, represents accumulating wealth, accumulating assets. And since this aspect is applying, she built from the bottom to the top. It's right there in the aspect. Even though her moon energy is pretty close to the 12th house, nonetheless, it's in the 11th house of authors, musicians, groups, okay, community, faith. I mean, come on. Because the 11th house is like faith, because it's like your hopes, it's your wishes. Okay. So remember I talked about it before. You may have somebody that may have possibly experienced bullying or something like that. And during all those times that they may have experienced bullying, every time that they were going through that experience, they're telling themselves, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you to the point you're not going to be able to bully me anymore. Okay. Now, oh yeah, I was going to look up what are gifts tied to. While I'm looking this up, another thing that we have to take note of is that her Jupiter is in retrograde. And to be quite frank, I don't even really think that she, even though it's like she knew she could do it, I think a part of her really didn't think she could do it, honestly. Because this also gives me this energy of somebody where, maybe for her at the beginning, it probably really wasn't even about money at all. It's just a matter of she wants to use her voice in a way where I don't want people to go through the same thing that I went through, whatever that backstory could be. I mean, coming in with the 29th degree ascendant, we couldn't even maybe say, because we know the first house, kind of think about it, it's kind of like your early years, it was kind of rough for her early years. A lot of lessons possibly she had to be taught. There may have even possibly been health issues. I'm getting something tied to her skin. She may have possibly had skin issues, or it may have not been actual skin issues. It could have simply just been a matter of, maybe not feeling pretty in her skin. I mean, I don't know how the chips fell, but this may even be someone who maybe really didn't want to be black, if we're going to be honest. Maybe. But let me go to my book of rulership so I can look up gifts. And that could be kind of, I guess I can understand, depending on, how your life went, I can understand why someone would dip into that particular thought pattern, I guess, of like, I just don't want to be the color that I am. I can't knock anybody for that, especially if you're continuously being bullied, ridiculed, abused, who knows, over and over again. Why would you want to? Almost like, maybe my life would be better if I was lighter, but gifts may be ruled by Taurus now that I think about it. So it may be a Venus thing. So let me see. Yep. Gifts are ruled by Venus. So again, it goes back to my original point where I said, it's not shocking. And probably the gifts, cars, she probably gave away a lot of cars because her Jupiter energy, which is also making an aspect to her Venus, is in the sign of Gemini, transportation. Okay. So a lot of cars. But to make note, her Jupiter is I believe it would be considered in not detriment. Yes, her Jupiter would be considered in detriment because Jupiter, we know, belongs at home in Sagittarius. Okay, it also belongs to Pisces. Now we know Sagittarius is sister sign. Remember, I talked about it before. You're across the street, your sister's house across the street. If we're talking about, fall, debilitated, that's what it is, debilitated. Jupiter don't like being at Sagittarius' sister's house, which would be Gemini. Don't like it over here, you want me to sit down and read, okay? You want me to, do all this stuff that I really don't want to do. Who knows? It could be too much TV going on. It may just be a lack of stability. Who knows why Jupiter doesn't like being at Gemini's house. I mean, of course, we know why Jupiter doesn't like being over there, but just follow me. Okay. So with her Jupiter being in detriment and is retrograde, I mean, we're looking at somebody that the idea of marriage probably for her is very archaic, but it may not really be that. It could be a manner of, I don't want to be controlled. I want to be in control of and by the way, this may be somebody who may be very secretive, even though she doesn't really have a whole lot of placements in Scorpio, which we associate with the secretive one, right? I just got a feeling here that she may be very secretive, especially whenever it pertains to her possessions, or maybe even when it pertains to the people that, she may even possibly be a little bit, I'm just getting somebody who's very private, even outside of that. We may even possibly be shocked to find out people that she has taken under her wing or that she has possessed over, if that makes sense. Because they're not going to tell it and she's not going to tell it. Remember, and it's almost like, and they probably have undying loyalty to her as well. She probably funds them in some type of manner because she can do that. But even outside of that, it's just that secretiveness. It's just that private type of energy that I get from her. Okay. But another thing as well that I've kind of noticed, not only does she have Jupiter and Neptune linking up, okay, but I've been looking at some charts like the last couple weeks, and I've noticed people that have made a substantial amount of money have an aspect between the second house and the eighth house. Like the eighth house and the second house are connected in some type of way. And look at it. Pluto is making an aspect to Mercury. Now, even though it will be an opposition, if I'm not mistaken, I think so. Yes. Even though it's making an opposition, Pluto is from the eighth house to the second house. Nonetheless, you would probably be surprised the amount of people that, honestly, the amount of people that she has in her back pocket. It's almost like this is somebody where she might as well be a bank, because a lot of this energy gives me somebody who does stuff on loan. It's like, example, they go to her and just like, hey, I need a loan, or I need you to fund this particular type of business, but I don't have the capital, nor do I have the money to like give you it back at this particular point in time. And she's just like, okay, fine. But you owe me. I don't think I would necessarily want to owe her, my opinion. I don't necessarily think I want to owe her. I don't think so. But I wouldn't even be surprised if Shark Tank, if you guys know the show Shark Tank, where they are like, I guess they're called angel investors or something like that. I wouldn't even be surprised if they haven't like tried to get her on the show multiple times. Because like I said, she may as well be a bank. I mean, seriously, she has that type of cash flow, maybe more cash flow than what me and you would be expecting. Even though they may say that she has this particular amount of money, I think it's more. I mean, she literally could probably build her own city, fund her own city. She'd be fine. But with the second house being a very possessive house, she may be very frugal. She may be somebody where she also wants to keep her possessions to her, especially if we have somebody, like I said, who in their earlier years went through so many lessons, etc., etc. She wants to keep it all to herself. She wants to keep it all close to her chest. So, we may literally have somebody who could be very, very greedy. A lot of it could be because of their beginning, but the other part of could it just be they just don't like to share. And in my opinion, I don't really nab Aquariuses as people who like to share. That's my opinion. And she has like I don't know if we would consider this a stellium, maybe. But yeah. Okay. Anyway, so another thing as well as kind of sticking out is the matter of that she has, and I don't know if this is true or not, but we have this square aspect between the sun and her Saturn. Okay. As you can see right here, if we look at the chart, we scroll all the way down here. Saturn is right here. Just go straight across. We see Saturn is squaring to her sun. So restrictions, a lot of restrictions that she may have had to, it's almost like having to break down a lot of doors, a lot of barriers, because her Saturn is in the house of profession, career, public life. But remember, I said I don't really find her being somebody who's open at all. I mean, at all. The most you're probably going to get out of her is where she came from, not what she has going on right now. But that just feels like the way that she has decided to be. But I was going to say with her Saturn and her sun, I mean, again, all these reasons are for entertainment purposes only, but a part of me, it feels like incest, doesn't have to be, or it could be the R word, RAPE, in terms of her being conceived, okay? Or hopefully, or even, maybe even, hopefully that's not something that she went through as a child. Now, I'm not saying this because it's something that I'm seeing in her chart. Part of me is looking at the chart, or part of me looks at the chart. The other part of me also goes with what I'm intuitively feeling. Okay. I mean, and maybe even at some point in her career, possibly early on, she may have felt like that people tried to RAP her whenever it pertains to her career. Like they really tried to like get her, big time. But like I said, she's smart. I could see her being someone where she knows exactly where to put herself. She knows the elbows that she needs to rub against in order for things to come out in her favor. However, since her second house is connected to her eighth house, you wouldn't have a clue who's in her back pocket. Even if it is the worst person in the world, you would never know. I would never know, but she would know. And of course, the other person would know, but that's just the way that she's rocking. Okay. And we know Pluto can be kind of dark, especially with, and we also know Pluto can be transformative. Pluto can also be obsessive as well. Okay. And here's another thing too. I don't think you're going to get warm fuzzy out of her, in my opinion. Okay. There's also this energy that I'm getting from her where she may be a little bit obsessed with talking about herself. So it's that energy where somebody is having a conversation and they just can't wait for you to stop talking so that they can talk about themselves. She possibly loves to talk about herself. I mean, this just gives me someone who is not, it feels kind of removed in a way from actual people to people interactions or people to people emotions. And I don't know if this is because, she went through a period of time where she kind of like shut her emotions off, where it's just like people bad. Don't let people in, maybe. But there just feels like a wall. But she has so many squares. She has oppositions. So she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. It's kind of like equal. So she's had her moments where probably things were really, really bad. And then she's had her moments where things have been really, really good. You know, it may possibly just ebb and flow like that. Okay. But since we haven't really talked that much about her moon is in Sagittarius. Okay. Even though it's about to enter the 12th house, it's not there yet. And remember, I made that video on your personality. So she definitely is probably a traveler. She's a teacher. She totally gives, and another thing as well, you know how Martha Stewart has like her cooking show? I'm surprised that Oprah doesn't have her own cooking show, but she probably doesn't want to, because that would be you guys entering into her bubble, her sense of privacy that she doesn't want you to be a part of, because then you start asking questions. And I think that's another thing as well. She doesn't like people that ask too many questions. Okay. So her ninth house is also in Virgo, and she has Mercury in Aquarius. So Aquarius, is the author, right? So journalism. So without a doubt, her ninth house, higher education, okay, in Aquarius. So that may have been something that came naturally to her. And her Mercury is in the second house of, like your throat chakra, or just using your throat, using your voice. So it's really not shocking that she was a journalist, or chose to go to school to be a journalist, and she became really good at it, really smart. But like I said, this goes back to somebody, I don't know, wasn't there like a segment way back called Meet the Press, or maybe a segment like that now, unless she was behind something like that. And here's another thing as well. Without a doubt, she's an investor, but again, this gives me very hidden. Again, you wouldn't have a clue what she invests into. Okay? I mean, I don't think you have a clue. I might have a hunch. Politics. Because the moon, I believe, is House of Representatives. In Sagittarius, I think Leo is politics, and Jupiter may possibly be politicians. I'm looking in the book of rulership right now as well. Where is it? There's a lot. Politics, foreign. Oh, that's weird. Foreign politics are ruled by Jupiter. Municipal politics are ruled by Cancer. Political party. I'm look that up in a second. But either way, I just have a. Oh, I did say politics, didn't I? So more so, I wouldn't say foreign. I would say more so like, like how we have in the United States, Democrat or Republican. She may, well, it doesn't matter what way she goes. It really doesn't matter. But that's my opinion, and it's possible that they maybe even actually wanted her to run for office, municipal, some seat in the government or something like that. But that's not her. That's not her thing. She comes across to me as somebody, she wants to control the government behind the scenes because she has the money. So we may be looking at somebody who has maybe more of a hand in maybe certain political things that we don't even realize, because we don't think it would be her, and that it may possibly be her superpower. We don't think it would be her because it would not sound like her. You know what I'm saying? But yes, so who knows how many elections or political campaigns she has been involved in, because again, her moon's in the 11th house, yes, but it's so close to being in the 12th. Very private, very secretive. Okay. Midhaven. When I'm talking about Midhaven, I'm talking about 10th house. Her 10th house lord is in the second house, another energy tied to money. Okay. She is about her business. Saturn is tied to business, and she has 3 planets in like a Saturn energy sign. She's about her business. Her business is communications. Her business is authorship. So of course, books, book clubs, that's her thing. It comes, I think, to me, it comes naturally to her, because your talents are like ruled by Mercury, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to check to make sure. So Where is it? I'm surprised that they don't have this in here, but I think that your talents are ruled by Mercury. That's what I think. That's what I feel. Okay. But either way, okay. So, again, her thing is communications. Maybe even, well, mass media is more so moon, but again, her moon is making a connection to her 10th house lord. Okay. Right here, Venus is her 10th. Venus, which is ruled by Libra, of course, is considered her 10th house lord and is smack dab here in the second house. Even keeps her romantic life private, her romantic partners private. I mean, again, I see her possibly being very possessive. That is one thing. But maybe this is just me. Younger people, maybe, if we're talking about romantically speaking, but again, we would never know. We would never know. Okay. Um, but speaking of love, she has Mars in the, it's so weird. I was thinking about younger people for some reason. She has Mars in Scorpio, which it's at home, very controlled. And that's another thing as well. I think her moon and her sun make it, oh yes, her moon and her sun make an aspect to one another. It would be hard as hell to rattle her chain, rattle her cage. You wouldn't really get very far. It's very controlled. And there's nothing wrong with being controlled, okay? But, too much control, I don't know. You might be borderline psychopath because why do you have no reaction whatsoever? I don't know. But she's very controlled. She's very balanced. She thinks things through. And I would say it's possible that she may definitely like being at home a lot. It's like the boardroom. I don't know if she has somewhat of like a boardroom at her house or her estate, maybe. I mean, it just gives me like secret meetings. Like you guys wouldn't even be able to probably fathom the amount of stuff that goes on possibly at her estate or in her home. And that's what goes to me saying, you wouldn't have a clue the amount of people that are probably in her back pocket that are flying under the radar. You just wouldn't have a clue, and it just gives me like a lot of secret meetings or stuff like that. I mean, what is it? One of my favorite movies still to this day is Blade, the Blade trilogy. You couldn't tell me nothing about the movie. I don't care if you don't like the third one. That's too bad for you. I love the third one with Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel. I think that's the one. Anyway, but remember in Blade, they called him Daywalker, right? I don't know why I'm kind of getting a little bit of vampire vibes from her. Not in that way, but in the way of it's just like she roams or like she's up at night or, she may prefer like the nighttime as opposed to the daytime, or she gets a lot of these secret meetings or stuff like that happens at happens at night. It's kind of creepy, but it's like I can kind of see it. It's just weird. But anyway, so good luck trying to outsmart Miss Oprah because it ain't gonna happen. She also has a grand air trine, and we know air is the intellectual. So good freaking luck trying to outsmart her. You're not even gonna come close. But remember I said before that she may be someone where she's like, I'm the smartest person in the room. Get used to it. Maybe in some sort of manner she is, maybe she's not, she just thinks that she is, or she makes sure to keep people around her that don't challenge her on that aspect. Okay? But if you go to her for a loan, okay, you're gonna have to pay it back in some way. Now, what way that is, I don't know. Okay? Her sexuality may possibly be kind of unexpected. Maybe in like it kind of feels like a cover up because we know, and I kind of jumped all over the place, but I'm not trying to. We know Uranus right here is unexpected. It's in the energy of Cancer. Cancer is tied to home, right? It's also tied to property. It's tied to mother. Okay. And well, um, I'm getting like a grandmother vibe when it pertains to her. I don't know if she was raised by her grandmother, but I'm not getting the vibe here that her mother was super involved in her life. It's just not giving me that. It's kind of giving being raised by a third party. Okay. And I actually, nope. I almost said, I think she has a grand water trine, but no, she doesn't. But anyway, so she may be a little bit of a perfectionist as well. Especially when it comes to money, so how some people lose money and it makes like headlines like, oh my God, they've lost like their billionaire status. She ain't gonna let that shit happen. Even if she may have to, take something out of your pocket, it doesn't matter, because for her, she wants to maintain that idea, because especially with her Uranus being in the 7th house of unexpected type of energy, but it's retrograde. I don't really think she wants the world to, I think she wants the world to see her as one particular way. And that's fine, you know? But yeah, so this is just a little bit of what I saw in her particular chart. I'm sorry for kind of like being all over the place, but sometimes if I just see something, I just have to talk about it in that particular moment. But yes, so thank you guys for sticking around for this particular chart reading. I hope you liked it, and I hope you saw something in this particular chart, or you learned something from what we talked about to take you on over to your next venture. Shoot, almost died just then. Excuse me. And I'll see you guys later.